Leafs lose to the Blues. What went wrong and what needs fixing ahead of Saturday's matchup against the Big Bad Bruins? We'll dive into all of that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. What's going on, Dave? How we feeling on a Friday? Maple Leafs fall to the Blues 5-1. That's now two uninspiring efforts in a row. What's going on here, Dave?
Is it bad? I'm going to say I'm probably all feeling the blues right now.
I'll allow it. I will allow it. I'm a very punny guy, so you can get away with it with me.
It always makes me think of that Elton John song. That's why they call it the blues.
That's
how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't a good effort right from kind of start to finish. Actually, I should say, I thought the first couple minutes the Maple Leafs looked good. They allowed a quick goal, but I thought overall, it looked as though Matthews played well his first couple of shifts. And then I don't know what happened. He just kind of turned into a pumpkin there. Next thing you know, he was dash 3 on the ice for the first 3 goals of the hockey game. And that third goal that his line allowed was just atrocious. And look, they got dogged for it, right? Berube was all over them on the bench, as he should. And I think he even spoke post-game about how brutal of a shift that was. Came out and said basically, quote, "The third goal is just not doing things right, and it was lazy hockey on the goal. That's the bottom line." And this is we're showing a clip of him just kind of reaming out Auston Matthews, but a brutal giveaway behind the net. Like you just can't do that. You're the leader. You're the captain. I mean, your team's already down 2-0. You're 2-1 at the time, rather, not 2-0. But you need to get back into this hockey game. You cannot give the puck away like that behind your own goal. Just can't happen.
No, it's not even giving up the puck behind the goal. It's the way that it was like. It was just like a, all right, it's gonna just toss it off here, right?
No
like
compete. There's just no compete there.
Just not a smart play. He used the word lazy. That was like, even lazy kind of feels like it wasn't even enough of a proper description of what that was. That was just inexcusable, right? In your own zone, you got to play with more conviction. You need to understand that the other team wants that puck. You can't just put it in a position where it's like, all right, whoever wants it, come and get it. Like, that's what it felt like. You messaged me when Matthews had those first few shifts, like he's looking pretty good. I responded saying, yeah, leading by example.
And then he turned into a pumpkin after that. Now, like I did, like I legitimately, like he on the power play made that one really nice move, cut up the middle of the ice with power, with speed through the neutral zone, made that nice move and almost scored. Really nice save by Binnington, getting a toe on it. But I was like, hey, that's a power move like that. If that's the Auston Matthews we're going to see tonight, I like what I see. And then on the very next shift, I saw him working for pucks. He had a really busy stick in the defensive end, forced a couple turnovers and got the puck moving the other way. And I'm like, all right, this is MVP level Auston Matthews that came to play tonight. And then 2 minutes later, he was fishing a puck out of the back of his net and did that twice more throughout the game. So egg on my face that I think I even tweeted, "Oh, Matthews playing like Mario tonight." No, not the case. Absolutely was not the case. The second I tweeted that, they got scored on. And it wasn't a good night. Joseph Woll made his return. I thought he made a couple of big saves. I thought Joseph Woll gave them a chance to actually win, to get back into the game. Like he made 2 stops in particular in the first period after it was 2-0. And he made that one breakaway save on Braden Shen that he got a blocker on, and then he made a really nice cross crease save on Dylan Holloway on the one-timer little 2-on-1 after another giveaway, Dave. I thought that those 2 saves in particular were just like big stops. It's like, okay, he's made 2 saves for you guys. It's time to reward him with a goal. They got one from OEL. He did score to make it 2-1, cut the lead in half, and then just that brutal third goal. And really, the Leafs didn't have much of a presence or much of a push after that to really threaten the Blues at all tonight. Just a very uninspiring effort once again, and it's 2 in a row, right? You thought what's annoying about it, Dave, is I really thought that they were going to have a good game. I think that's what's kind of annoying about this, right? Like the one against Columbus, I wouldn't call that one annoying. That was just like, of course they lost to Columbus. These are the games that they usually do win. These are the ones that they do kind of come back and respond well, especially when there's like money on the board in a game like this, taking on the former coach, your coach's former team who had fired him, and to come out so lackluster and so careless with the puck throughout the entire game, careless with their defensive zone coverages. Really, it was quite puzzling to me.
It was puzzling, especially because we're thinking about what the last 2 games are like. We're almost forgetting that a few days ago they had that 5-1 drubbing of the Lightning. Like that game feels like far distant memory because of what the last 2 games have been like. Yeah. And especially this one here, Joseph Woll's back in the lineup. It's you want to see if they put forth a good performance for him. And was he great? No, he wasn't great, but guess what? Down to nothing, and the fact that he has to stop 2-on-1s, breakaways. Like, put any other goaltender in that game. Some people probably say, "Oh, I have Anthony Stolarz is in the game." That's not happening. They've never played like that in front of Anthony Stolarz, in my opinion. Since give the goalie a chance.
Yeah,
give your teammate a chance, and they didn't do that tonight. So, I think singling any one person for how this game went totally wrong. And what I liked about it, is that no one's giving the full out cliche answers, I guess. Right.
Well, why don't we put a pin in that actually? Because let's get to the good, the bad, the ugly then. Because I know where you're going, and I wanted to talk about it as well. Based off of the post game reaction from the Maple Leafs, there's a word that starts with an A that it sounds like the team is learning about. We'll get to that on the other side. And the Big Bad Bruins going to be in town tomorrow, so we'll preview that game. What do the Maple Leafs need to learn from these last 2? What mistakes need to be corrected? We'll get to that also coming up in a little bit. And Canada shows off what their jersey is going to be looking like for the Four Nations Cup. We'll show you what that looks like as well. Coming up next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. And if your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Prize Picks put its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Available wherever you get your podcast. For you audio listeners on the go, you can also listen to us on YouTube as well for the video version. Just search up Locked On Leafs and hit subscribe. All right, Maple Leafs with a 5-1 loss to the St. Louis Blues. They're now a 500 hockey club, through 8 games. Oh, how far the mighty have fallen after just 2 bad performances. But here we are, Dave. We do this after every single loss. We go through the good, the bad, the ugly of the game. You started to kind of tease what the good was, what you liked about the game. So why don't we let you continue? What was good tonight, Dave?
The guys in the speaking after the game, and frankly, it's funny that it was 3 players that spoke, and Matthews, Nylander were the 2 players, and Woll. They did not try to sugarcoat anything tonight. Basically, Matthews said up and down lineup, not good, and starts with him. Then Nylander comes out and he says the same, pretty much the same thing, and he called his play on the 4th goal that allowed the turnover and 3-on-1 a stupid play. I mean, we've heard this team come out and maybe try to throw cold water after games like this. Try not to let the panic sink in or try to, sugarcoat anything. There wasn't none of that tonight. And,
no,
I wonder if this is just, that's not going to fly under Craig Berube. You cannot, you heard what he had to say after the game. He called, basically called the first line's play lazy. He's called this team's play cute, not direct enough.
Let me go through some of the quotes that we got here from Craig Berube today. Okay, I'll fire through them because there's a few, courtesy of our boy Mark Masters, who's down live on location. He said, "Quote: We're going through some adversity right now. We all got to be better, myself included. We all got to be better." He continued to talk about the 3rd goal that we had discussed earlier, which we'll also get a discussion in a little bit. The 3rd goal is just not doing things right, and it was lazy hockey on that goal. That's the bottom line. Another quote: "Our whole team's getting a little cute. We just got to play direct." And that was really one of the big differences between what we've seen the last couple of games and what we saw happening in the first few games. That game against Tampa Bay, right? They were playing far more direct. The game against the Kings, they were playing far more direct hockey, taking it to the net. Not really been the case in this game. Craig Berube again said, "We're just losing coverage. We're not helping each other out in the coverage areas, like too much time and space, and some of them instead of being physical and closing out plays. Some of them are mental mistakes, and some of them we just got to be harder. We got to be more physical killing plays." And that's what he wants to see. He wants to see this team being physical in the zone end. They need to be killing plays as much as possible. And they got to make sure that they don't lose guys in coverage. Twice you saw goals kind of happen that way. Dylan Holloway's goal was able to kind of just sneak in behind everybody, and he was able to rip the 2nd goal of the game. He was lost in space and was able to score and kind of put this one up, give them a nice little insurance marker. It's plays like that that really, really do get the coach upset and pissed off. And look, the A word that I was referring to earlier was accountability. And we talked about how the main thing that he was going to bring to this team was accountability. He was going to hold players accountable. And what I think is notable is what you're talking about. After the game, you have both William Nylander and Auston Matthews coming out, being accountable for their actions specifically and being accountable for the team's performance. We didn't hear, "Yeah, we got our chances. They just didn't drop. It'll come. It'll come." We heard all that last year, or, in the last 5 years. He actually said flat out, "We weren't good enough today. We got to be a lot better." Right. And here was the quote from William Nylander: "My play was stupid there in the 3rd period. We got to be better than that." At that point in the game, 3-1, 17 minutes left to go. There's a lot of time. That's got to be better situational awareness on my part. It's true. It's true. And he's holding himself accountable. Now, you got to come out next game and not make those mistakes. You got to come out and you got to score a goal, perhaps, and come out and provide some offense and say, "My bad on last night's game. I will go out and be far better, be much more direct, take pucks to the net, be harder on pucks, harder to play against, and not make those stupid, silly, cute mistakes where I'm trying to dangle up at the top of the circle up near the blue line where I can carelessly get the puck knocked off my stick and allow a 2-on-1 the other way, and Jake Neighbor snipes it home. Can't let that happen, right? So accountability is what was good out of this game, at least afterwards, hearing them take accountability for their actions.
Yeah, and look, even during the game, you look at after that play that Nylander made, not long after, he was in there trying to create a scoring chance, right? Trying to get it back. That, star players, coaches will live with the mistakes that the star players make because they know that those star players will do what they can to make up for it, right?
I was looking for the one thing that does annoy me. So they talk about how we got to be better, and I thought I saw this quote. I can't find it anymore, but I thought I saw one of the beat writers write it. How they need to take the puck to the net a little more and be harder. Taking the puck to the net, be harder when they have the puck, and like if you know that, why can't you do that? Just do it then. I don't know. Why are you telling me after the game, oh, this is what we have to do? You had a chance to do it for 60 minutes of the game. You're going to tell me you only figured it out when the final horn went, that's what you need to do to have success? That's kind of what does annoy me about this team sometimes when they talk about, and look, it's all sports. It's everything. In hindsight, you reflect, but it's like, if you know in the middle of the game that that's what you need to do to have more success, well, why aren't you doing everything possible to muster up those chances and actually execute on that? It's always bothered me when people say stuff like that.
No, players. The one too that's like, we need more play with more urgency. You're getting paid a lot of money.
You had 60 minutes to play with urgency.
Exactly.
Why are you telling me now the game's over?
Yeah, tell the fans who spent hundreds of their hard-earned dollars that you need to play with more urgency.
God, it's annoying. So annoying after a game when they talk about what they need to do better. It's like, well, why didn't you? You had 60 minutes to change the way you play and play with urgency, play more simple, play more direct, north-south, play tougher, forecheck better, backcheck better, be better, more aware in your own defensive zone. You had 60 minutes to figure all that out.
After they said the same stuff the other game when they got outclassed by the Blue Jackets.
Exactly. In terms of individual efforts, I'll give a little shout out actually to Steven Lorentz, who got bumped up onto the third line, played a little bit more tonight. I like him getting a chance to move up there with the injury. In terms of the underlying numbers, they were among the best in the team, 78% expected goals for, and somehow finished a +1. So he was on the ice for the OEL goal. Wasn't on the ice for any other goals. Won some puck battles throughout the game too, which you always like to see. So give a little bit of love for the individual performance of Steven Lorentz. The bad, Dave. What we've kind of gone through a lot of bad and ugly, but is there anything else that sticks out to you specifically?
Well, we kind of touched on it, but I don't think we've really dove into how bad the top line has been the last two games.
Well, yeah, they've been on the ice for what, 5 goals, 6 goals the last 2 games?
They're a -6 over the last 2 games.
Yeah.
And it's not just, and I know plus minus is not usually a stat you want to reference all the time, although.
But what it means is you're on the ice for 6 more goals. Like you've been -6, -6. All right, throw that out the window. They've been outscored 6-0 the last 2 games when on the ice. That's what that means, though. That's not good.
Yeah. Jonas Siegel put out a story actually not long, like 20 minutes after the game, that this Matthews Nylander Nyes pairing with the last 2 games are being outshot. They have 7 shots on goal to 13 allowed. Expected goals 28%.
Yeah, that's not good. That's against Columbus and a Robert Thomas-less St. Louis Blues team.
Yeah.
Like, come on. What are we doing? You talk about how you need to play with more urgency and you got to play more direct and you got to be less lazy. Okay, do it then. Like, what do you tell me after the game? And if you play like that against Boston, good luck. I am curious though, because we saw the lineup blender get pulled out a little bit. Do you anticipate seeing some lineup changes heading into? I don't mean personnel. I mean literally. Do we see the blender get pulled out ahead of this game against Boston?
Hey, if I'm Craig Berube, this is a perfect opportunity to say, all right, you guys had a bad game against Columbus. You had a chance to bounce back. You didn't. I got to do something to change. He said, I got to be better. Well, he's got to take a hard look and say, is this more of a means that something has to be changed? These coaches have been reluctant to make those moves, especially with that top line, especially with the Matthews-Marner pairing duo. Let's see if Craig Berube is different in that regard.
I think Keefe actually
did move off
quite a bit, move off that line. I think last year, I believe Nylander and Matthews had more time on ice at 5-on-5 than Matthews and Marner did. Now Marner was injured, so that was part of it, but that was a pairing that worked, right? And then Marner, played with Tavares and allowed him to flourish. So I wonder if we go back to that. I wonder if you go back to Matthews, Nylander, and maybe Nyes, and then Tavares, Domi, and Marner. Like, do we see that potentially going into the game against Boston? Like, those are lines that we've seen before. It's not like we've never seen them, but perhaps just to shake things up, because you just noted it. 28% expected goals through 2 games is unacceptable for the type of talent that those three have, right? Like, let alone the money that they're making, the talent that they have. So, yeah, maybe just a little bit of a shakeup, just continues to hold that accountability. It's like, if you guys want to play together, you gotta play better, or earn your way back with each other. Maybe would be the way to look at that, but just something to think about heading into the game. I guess, like, we kind of already encompassed all the bad and the uglies, like the turnovers. Like, that third goal is just so horrid. And Nylander's carelessness with the puck on the fourth goal too. So the turnovers really leading to goals were my uglies, which we've kind of touched on quite a bit. So why don't we take a break? We'll come back. We'll get into the game against Boston, what to expect heading into a showdown against the Big Bad Bruins, and the Four Nations Cup is coming up, and Canada and really all the teams have released what the jerseys are going to be looking like. So we'll show you a quick look at what they are, and we got our verdict. Do we like them? Do we not like them? We'll talk about it next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NHL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as always. You can find the podcast 5 days a week wherever you get a podcast, and also up on YouTube. Tomorrow night, the Maple Leafs have a tough task against the Big Bad Bruins. Boston coming to town for the first time this year. They didn't get a win at all against the Bruins last year in the regular season. Obviously, we're able to rattle off 3 wins to force a Game 7 in the playoffs before falling in overtime. We're not going to rehash those old wounds, though. It's tough. It's tough after watching these last 2 games to think like they couldn't possibly play a third one this badly. Like, they've got to it's a mandatory response game tomorrow, is it not?
Yeah, you cannot go into this Saturday game and have a similar result. Like, I'm not one of those like, yeah, it's panic button sort of thing. I'm not going there. But if you truly want to show that you're heading in the right direction, that, again, we're talking about accountability. Boston's not been playing great. Like, it's not like True. Boston's been dominant this year. Like, take advantage of a team that's also going through its problems. Like Brad Marchand, the big thing there is that his coach pushed him in the back because of a stupid play that he made. What Brad Marchand said? It was a stupid play. Stop. Like, I don't mind that he did that because what I did was dumb, right? Like, the reason why Boston, I think, has, even though that we always talk about that on paper, they're not as great of a team. It's that accountability from the top players. When they make a mistake, they're not hiding behind anything. They're putting the onus on themselves to improve.
Yeah. I had something I wanted to get into that clip, by the way. Like I wrote it down prior to the game, thinking we would have a little bit more time to dig into it. But I did see the clip of him talking about, how uh, basically he believes that coaches are unfairly, criticized whenever they are disciplining players or yelling at players or whatever. Like he said, if I'm doing something wrong, like I deserve it. And he's, telling people are too sensitive and can't take it these days. But that's the culture set in Boston, and that's what's expected of him. He wants to be held accountable. And it made me, I don't know if we want to get into this conversation, but it made me think back to, like, over the years, the Maple Leafs. And it really, really made me think back to that time Sheldon Keefe was forced to, like, come out and walk back his comments that he made when he tried to hold the team accountable, when he said our best players didn't play as good as their best players, and that's why we lost. And, he kind of laid into, Marner and Matthews. And then the next day he came out and had to clarify what he meant. And there was a I don't know, a supposed rift or something between Marner and the coach. And it just made me think about, it just, I don't know, it just bothered me. You know what I mean? Like, then didn't it just make you think, like, Marner would never respond like that? And then today, seeing Nylander and Matthews come out and speak to the media, take accountability, couldn't help but notice that Marner didn't. And again, I don't know if I'm reading too much into things. It's just something that's on my chest that I had to bring up. I couldn't help but notice that Mitch Marner was not out there taking accountability, talking about how poor his game was tonight, but Willie and Matthews were.
I get that sentiment. Now, after the Columbus game, he did speak.
Sure.
So, he did bring that. He did talk then, but yeah, in the past, he has not come out and you know what it is. It's not that he has come out and say anything. It's the personal accountability, right? It's like, I don't think I've ever heard Mitch Martin ever say that he didn't have a great game. It's always a lot of like we didn't play well as a group, things like that. But I don't think I've ever heard, like, on that third goal that we were talking about, Chris Tanev is running around trying to chase Jordan Kyrou, who's got some pretty good speed. Tanev chases him to the point where Marner has a chance to help his defender, but he doesn't do anything. And then the guy he's supposed to cover Broberg gets a perfect shot off, because again, there's no one really. Marner's in, like, not really doing anything. Like, he can come out and talk, but I want him to come out and say, yeah, there's things I can do that could be better to help this team. Like, Nylander did it, as you said, and Matthews have done it. I haven't seen Mitch Marner do it. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to pick on Mitch Marner, but yes, it is telling that I have seen players on this team come out and say those things individually, but I haven't seen it from him.
Yeah. Anyways, we could set that aside for now and kind of dive back into the matchup. But it was just it was on my chest. I want to bring it up and get your thoughts on it. But yeah, like you talk about how the Boston Bruins, like, this is a team that's also struggling. So they're going to be just as desperate to get back into the win column as Toronto. Like, both these teams have won multiple games or lost multiple games going into it. The Bruins have lost 3 straight, 5-2 to the Stars, 4-0. They lost to the Predators, in which they played very badly. I watched a bit of that game, and they lost to Utah 2-1 in overtime last Saturday. So they haven't had a win in over a week. So the Bruins are in a situation too where they're like, we got to get rolling here. Like, what's going on? And a date against the Maple Leafs, they've had a lot of success against that team, so they'll be ready to go. They're probably happy to be taking on Toronto. Not sure the Leafs would say the same realistically based on how things have gone for them against this team over the last little bit. But yeah, they've got to play far better and more physical and play, far more similar to the way that they did against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Why things have gone so south in the last 72 hours since that game is beyond me. Like, that game was Wednesday or no, Tuesday. Monday.
Monday was Tampa, Tuesday was Columbus.
Right, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. So, like, that game was on Monday, and Tuesday debacle, Thursday debacle. Like, let's regain that form that the team had on Monday against Tampa. Copy paste that effort against the Bruins. That's how you're gonna have success in this game.
Not only that, and I know it's like beating a dead horse sometimes, but that power play, they got to find something because
dude,
I actually think it takes away confidence and momentum in the way that this team plays. And like, I'm not saying change the defenseman on the power play. I think it's time that they consider changing some guys off that power play because it's
who
one player I'm thinking of, and I know it sounds like singling out, but like John Tavares is one. Because what's Tavares' main job on that power play when they come out on the ice?
Bumper, net front.
Win the faceoff.
Oh, yeah, okay.
48% he's on the faceoff in the power play. You notice they don't win the faceoff. Then the other team gets the puck. It's out of the zone, and they can't break the puck into the damn zone after that. Like Matthews is actually now he's taken fewer faceoffs. I think he's like 7-3. He's got a higher win percentage.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta do something different, like move some guys around because you're basically what right now. Yeah, we're trying some different things, but you're also telling these guys, go and try to fix it. Or maybe it's like, you know what, you guys aren't getting the job done. Let's see who else we can get up there to do it.
Yeah, possibly. Like Pacioretty would have been that guy, but he's hurt, right? Like he would have been a good person to take out for Tavares and make that swap, but he's injured. So it's like, don't know if that's really going to work as well. I'm trying to think, like Matthew Nyes, I guess you could put Nyes in there.
The perfect bumper role guy because he'll
net front presence,
screen the goalie, clear some room out in front of the net too. They got to get to the slot.
They have to get to the slot, but I think they also mentioned like they just can't wait to make the perfect pass. Like it's just it doesn't always have to be pretty, and it's like, again, I have heard them talk about that for 3 years now. For 3 years, I've heard them talk about how we can't just look to make the perfect pass. Like, at some point, are you not going to take your own advice? Like, okay, then, don't. So if you get the puck and you have an opportunity to dart toward the net, do it. Like, I don't understand. You're the one on the ice, not me. So why are you telling me what you need to do? Do it. Like I just don't understand sometimes what goes through these guys' mouths or goes through these guys' heads. But we'll see. For sure, the power play that's been a big issue. I thought that this game against the Blues was kind of a perfect matchup to right the ship there. Mm-hmm. Blues 70% PK rate going into the game. That allowed 4 goals in their last 4 games on the penalty kill. So I thought that tonight was going to be the night they broke through. Obviously, it was not. So there's some issues there for sure. And look, there's got to be a little bit of heat there. There's got to be some heat on Marc Savard to figure it out as quick as possible because they're kind of giving away some points here early on in the season, and you don't want to see that.
No.
All right. So that's tomorrow. Excited for it. Always love to see Leafs Bruins on a Saturday night. Let's hope for the bounce back. Should be a good game. In a couple of months, there'll be the second best. It's just the best rivalry in hockey. Canada, USA. That's coming up in the Four Nations Cup. Finland and Sweden going to be there as well. But we've got our first jersey release, and we know exactly what these jerseys are going to be looking like. So why don't you bring them up, Dave, and you can give me a rating from 1 to 10 how you like those jerseys. On the left, you got Sidney Crosby rocking Canada's jersey, and on the right, you got Big Tone rocking the US of A.
Yeah, I don't hate the Canada jerseys. I've been a stickler for how the Canada jerseys have looked lately.
I like them actually a lot. I don't know why. I actually really like the jersey.
The stripes look good. Sometimes I wish the shoulders weren't bare, but I can live with that. I just like the maple leaf. It looks solid. Canada.
I like the white around the collar though.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too. Yeah,
like the USA one's just plain.
Yeah, like again, we saw a bit of a preview the other day, and I said this is dreadful. I'm sorry, like, is it really like someone's job was to say, all right, make it a jersey for Team USA, and they literally said, okay, we're gonna put USA on the front.
Yeah,
you got so many symbols for the US that you can go with, and this is what you come up with.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not my country, brother.
It's
not my country.
Poor Auston's got to wear that.
Yeah, Big Tone. Think he's gonna be the captain?
I was trying to think who else would the option be. I think he would be.
I mean, Patrick Kane making the team?
Ooh.
I don't know. That might be something we can get into next week. We had tons of time. They gotta make the rosters December 2nd. They named the rosters. So we'll have about
I think they named some of the players already, if I'm not mistaken.
They named the first 6 players on each roster who are guaranteed a spot. Brad Marchand is one of them, by the way, and he hasn't started the season off very well. Funny enough, but he's already on a spot. But yeah, on the 2nd, they gotta name rosters. So we'll have tons of time to get into the roster predictions and whatnot. But
I'll say quick shout out to Connor McDavid for saying Sidney Crosby should be captain.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't know why that would ever be. I know some people like he's the best player on the team, but it's Sidney Crosby. It's probably going to be one of the last times he plays for Canada.
I think, was it Noodles today on Overdrive, I believe? They were talking about it, and he's of the belief, like, yeah, this is Crosby's tournament, give him the captaincy, and then allow him to kind of pass the torch when Canada goes to the Olympics in 2026. That will be the torch passing from Sid to McDavid when it comes to Canada hockey.
Or here are the other 2 jerseys for anyone that's Sweden. Like pretty cool.
Yeah, Swedish. They always got little crown jersey there, and then Finland on the right.
I would have liked a little more blue on Sweden, like somewhere else, but again, I like the crown. I like the
shoulder pads. Put a little blue on the shoulders.
Yeah,
could do that. Yeah. Well, it is what it is. Again, not my country. Not my problem. Not my problem. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Monday. Until then, enjoy the game tomorrow night. Bruins, Leafs, Saturday night hockey. Hockey night in Canada. It'll be a good game. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.